Um clube cheio de significado, um clube que levanta várias bandeiras para várias causas.
From the punk rock scene, and yeah, they kind of created a new way of fan scene, a new way of fan culture, you know?
Nazis were in all stadiums, and a club like São Paoli was the first to really take on the role to clear this completely out of their ground.
Um dos clubes mais fantásticos do mundo, que já meteu medo em muito nazista, agora tenta fazer as coisas pelas próprias mãos.
That is only possible if you do it yourself and not wait for others.
In a time when Germany was bringing in 1 million Syrian refugees, they gave them a place to play.
That's a football team for refugees coming from all around the world.
It's more than just being the cool rebel club. It's living every day how to keep that cool rebel club.
Eu estou em Hamburgo, é dia de derby, é dia de São Paulo, é dia de subculturas.
Em cada país, em cada região do mundo, há costumes, crenças e cenas que constroem o esporte local. O futebol é cultura. E nessa série exclusiva do Peleja, a gente se desloca para te mostrar uma das suas tantas subculturas.
Sempre lembrando que para essa série, para essa temporada do Subculturas, o OneFootball está dando camisas de 7 times diferentes da Alemanha. E o São Paulo é um deles. Então clica no link que está na descrição para você entender como que você pode participar para ganhar uma dessas camisas.
Hamburgo é uma cidade portuária bem importante na Alemanha. Em São Paulo, um dos bairros mais afastados, foi fundado um clube com o mesmo nome e um clube diferente de tudo que eu já vi ou visitei desde quando o Peleja existe. Para começar a entender o assunto, eu encontrei o Martino Simsek, produtor do Peleja e apresentador da série Gringo do Peleja. Ele já viajou aqui para Hamburgo mais de 10 vezes e o motivo, todas as vezes, foi assistir ao São Paulo jogar e viver esse bairro.
When you live near a port, and when you have a place near a port, it brings on the community that exists near a port. So there's sailors, there's migrant workers, there's temporary people, there's new communities that create itself. And so when you had something like São Paoli as a neighborhood grow historically, it was a little bit the cast-offs, the rebels who used to work for this port would come to São Paoli. So whether it was families from different countries seeking refuge here in Germany, whether it was the sailors going to the Reeperbahn for a night out with a prostitute or a woman of the night, this is kind of the environment that created itself in the red light district that connects from the Reeperbahn of São Paoli to the area of this port. Now obviously the identity of Hamburg is intrinsically tied to the port and the culture. I mean, even the other club, HSV Hamburg, their symbol is a diamond. That's the old flag of the Hamburg sailors, right? And so both of these sides have taken on this identity. You're in Northern Europe, in the third biggest port. If you go to your local bus stop or station or supermarket right now, there is one of these Hamburg crates. Because you have this city which has all these effects, so it has the markets of the world coming to it, so you get a diverse community here. It has the dynamics of a port, so you get the party scene, you get the prostitution scene, you get those complicated dynamics of port life. E também, nos portos, chega o futebol, right? And so you have this combination of everything, but it's a very natural part of the history of the city.
O FC São Paulo não era um clube com destaque em nenhum cenário do futebol mundial. E quem nasceu e cresceu aqui sabe bem disso. Eu encontrei o Johnny, um dos caras mais envolvidos e apaixonados pelo clube. Ele me disse que, no passado, era tão difícil levar a torcida pro estádio que o jogo do São Paulo em si ficava em segundo plano. As pessoas iam pro campo mesmo para assistir outras atrações que não o futebol.
What is this? What's this? Yeah, here you can see. I mean, if you see this in 1984, you had to write Old Mary Taylor Jazz Band on top, and the football match was below because nobody wanted to attend São Paulo football match. So they brought elephants to at least get some people on the terraces, you know?
Until the late 70s, early 80s, this was just an average club like any other club here in Hamburg. You know, there was no political direction, no political message. Of course, the district here, St. Pauli, has always been political in a way, has always been a more left-wing district, but until the early 80s, that didn't really have an impact on the club itself. In the 80s, there started also some new stuff here in the district. People from all over Germany came here to squat places. You know, there were a lot of squats here in St. Pauli. People from those political movements also went to the stadium here and brought their politics into the stadium. In general, in those days, in the 70s, 80s, you had a proper Nazi problem on the stands in German football. You went to Cologne to the terraces, or to Bremen, or Dortmund, Schalke, you name it. In all the stadiums you had big hooligan groups or big groups of right-wing people, or in worst case right-wing hooligan groups. People who didn't look like their grandparents were born in Germany. For those kind of people it was really hard to go to football and to visit football matches in the stadium.
Nazis were in all stadiums. Neo-Nazis were in stadiums. This was a really live movement in Germany in the 1970s and the 1980s. And a club like St. Pauli was the first to really take on the role to clear this completely out of their ground.
Here at the Millantor Stadium, an alternative started, you know. Also, people from other parts of the society could go to football without beaten up straight away, you know. So yeah, that's when all this started, you know, from the punk rock scene. And yeah, they kind of created a new way of fan scene, a new way of fan culture, you know.
And you see it also, you know, from the expanse of the sticker culture. The supporters themselves and the ultras of St. Pauli were fundamental in growing this movement of stickering. And with those came more messages, came more creativity, came a different approach to football culture that you wouldn't have found with the old hooligan scene of the past. Also, this is a way of doing it yourself, adding your own creativity, building in your own element.
Dependendo de quem você seja, o São Paulo pode ser intimidador. Afinal, essa foi a torcida que chutou o nazista para fora do estádio. A bandeira pirata com a caveira Jolly Roger foi uma adição na identidade do clube que leva no escudo uma igreja local. Tudo é cheio de significado no São Paulo. E até o túnel do vestiário programado pode dar uma assustada em algum adversário que esteja mais desavisado. Esses detalhes foram sendo criados pelos próprios torcedores, que decidiram em certo momento tomar atitudes eles mesmos, com base no que eles queriam para o time. Aqui eles chamam essa subcultura de do it yourself, ou faça você mesmo.
Eu vejo esse túnel, fotos desse túnel, e eu achava que assim, pô, isso deve meter medo em quem passa por aqui. Você vê que aqui em cima tem até algo citando o inferno, a palavra hell, mas dá para perceber que é feito por eles mesmos. Aquela coisa do do it yourself é real. Tem poemas de torcedores jovens nas paredes, tem artes feitas por torcedores. Cada detalhe daqui representa um momento da história do São Paulo e dos próprios torcedores e dos ultras.
In the fan scene of FC St. Pauli, this DIY thing about punk rock is a thing which is always around, you know. There's always punk rock music coming from anywhere. Do your shit on your own. Don't let other people do that shit. If you want to do something, be creative and yeah, just do it.
You see this way of living out the DIY identity from things like in the beginning, the origins, whether it's kicking out far-right groups at a time when Germany had many far-right elements in the stadium, to fighting for housing rights and occupying houses here in the neighborhood when people were struggling to find housing, to building initiatives like Lampedusa FC, which in a time when Germany was bringing in 1 million Syrian refugees, they gave them a place to play.
That's a football team for refugees coming from all around the world. When they live here, often not so nice houses, they at least can come to the football training twice a week and have like this community feeling. They get in contact with other people. For example, the museum here, it's not part of the club. It's its own club, you know, founded by fans, founded by members of FC St. Pauli, and a lot of stuff is done here voluntarily, you know, and not only the museum, also stuff that's going on in the district here about rising rents in the center of Hamburg.
Activities like Viva la Berni, when more recently a speculator in the city tried to buy up a very famous building in São Pauli, and the club came together to protect it for local people in the city. You even have it with the clothing, you know, the brand DIY which the club established. It's difficult for the clothes to be made as ethical with the same ideas that the club has. When you're at São Pauli, you know, there's a clear connection to music. So what does the club do? They allow a space for a music school inside of the stadium. Feeding local people, feeding local communities. They build soup kitchens in the local communities. Every single step of the whole neighborhood is done to build this stuff. The amateur teams of São Pauli have expanded massively. So the blind football team has 3 straight championships. They're sending someone doing Ironman in Hawaii right now. They've got their own sailing team, which sailing is usually for the elite. You can imagine what these pirates are like when they go sailing.
The sailing team is really growing a lot and have a lot of great activities. That is only possible if you do it yourself and not wait for others, and all in the spirit of St. Pauli, but work together and just do things, make it happen. That's the spirit.
O São Paulo chegou a ser o único clube das 2 principais divisões alemãs a ter uma dirigente mulher como chefe, Sandra Schwedler, que acabou inspirando outras mulheres a ocuparem espaços nos corredores do Millentorn Stadium.
Members of the club voted to have a quota that 30% of the different gremium should be women. We know there are a lot of women here in the club who want to do something, but sometimes are maybe a bit not knowing if they can do it. And with this quota, the club is sending the signal, yes, we want you.
Você que está acompanhando essa temporada do Subculturas aqui na Alemanha já sabe que para assistir a Bundesliga de graça, você tem que baixar o app do OneFootball. O link está na descrição desse episódio do São Pauli.
Para sacar a melhor atmosfera local possível, eu fui para um jogo do São Paulo. Mas não era qualquer jogo, era o clássico contra o Hamburgo.
One thing that becomes interesting in this derby is, while on one side you have Hamburg, which is the traditional port which has this diamond, São Pauli takes on the pirate of the Jolly Roger, right? This gives you even more this sense of what their identity is compared to HSV. You know, HSV is a club que joga um estádio de 80,000 pessoas. The people called them Del Dino for many years, o Dinossauro, o time que não podia baixar. E outro lado, you've got São Pauli, which is a team who never really dreamed of playing in big competition.
For me, it's the match of the matches, right? But I grew up in Hamburg. You know, I went to school with HSV supporters. You know, they were sitting next to me, and back in the days they were playing EuroLeague, and we played in 3rd League, and I was like, oh man, I want to go on an away trip in EuroLeague as well one day. So I like to see the derbies. I don't want them to go to 1st League. I'd rather like to see us going to 1st League and them going down to, I don't know, to hell.
It's more than just being the cool rebel club. It's living every day how to keep that cool rebel club. When people start commercializing culture, when you try to sell culture, that culture loses its identity. São Pauli is at this constant take and pull of people are trying to commercialize this very cool identity, and thanks to the work of the people of São Pauli, they're keeping the identity from being too commercialized. And that's the story of São Pauli, which in its small metaphor, é a história do mundo, do capitalismo, de muitas coisas.
It's really diverse, and if you would like to understand this part of Hamburg, you need to be here and meet people, because it's so different.
Maybe football is one of the universal languages, you know, pretty easy rules. You just need a ball, 2 goals, and you don't really need to speak your opponent's language, right? I think a lot of people got inspired by that and also try to do stuff like that in their home clubs or their home communities all around the world.
É tudo. É a festa, é a agregação, é consciência política e tudo combinado com o trabalho feito concreto do dia em dia. And this sense of participation that you have in this club, it creates the model in so many ways for what German football aspires to be.
Gostou desse episódio? Deixa o seu like, se inscreva no Peleja e comenta aí aonde que a gente tem que ir para o próximo Subculturas. Falou!